All right, guys, welcome back to the Crypto Boys. Joe P here. Colin is in the middle of coaching right now, so he's not with us. However, we have a couple other great people on the channel right now. We got Cheeky Crypto with us. We got Chris and Nick. We got the Cheeky Crypto podcast as well. So Joey, Amaran, and Mikey, we are joined by a excellent crew. How are you guys doing today?
All good.
Doing good. Pumped.
Hi,
Excited. What's good?
I'm feeling great to be making my Crypto Boys debut.
That's right, baby. It's been a long time coming. We've been on your guys' channel a couple times. So wanted to get you guys on, of course, and talk a little VeChain. So a lot of stuff going on with VeChain. I know you guys are huge into VeChain, close relationships with VeChain. You know, really our biggest thought and our biggest take, just to kind of start this off, is where do you guys see VeChain going here in the future? Because they have supply chain stuff going on in their chain. Like, that's what they're trying to do, right? Help the world supply chain. Carbon neutral is their main goal, right? They want to be green. Now, before we even get into that, though, we had a couple friends actually contact us the other day watching the UFC, seeing VeChain all over the walls and all over the arena. I mean, first off, that's extremely bullish. What's your guys' take on the UFC partnering with VeChain, as well as the other partnerships that they have going on?
Well, we went down and with VeChain, they kindly invited us down to the last UFC event in London, and yeah, that was really enjoyable. Great to see, obviously, the event from VeChain's perspective as well. Obviously, being with them, I think Nick was doing some technical analysis while some of the fights were happening, but never a dull moment.
But money never sleeps, you know.
yeah, crypto never sleeps. But yeah, watching like Paddy the Baddie, you know, and his win with his speech, you know, regarding mental health, men's mental health, I thought that was, you know, really important to highlight. And yeah, seeing all the advertisements for VeChain on the Octagon and stuff like that was pretty epic. What do I think of the partnership as a whole? I think it's really positive. I think it's positive in a few different ways. One being like, obviously, like you mentioned, people were asking you about VeChain, right? Because, you know, they're seeing it. It's on television, it's on all the highlights. But, you know, couple that with the fact that VeChain are actually giving away tickets to like the community, right, to go to some of these events, like doing like giveaways, competitions. I don't know how to articulate it, but I think that is also really good as an engagement piece, right? And I think there's an awful lot more to come. Obviously, we said we went to the event with VeChain, so I can't really talk too much about some of the stuff that we covered off, but I think, yeah, there's some really exciting stuff to come from VeChain. I think it's a big sponsorship, and the one thing that I really do like about it is there's not many crypto projects at the moment doing sponsorships. So I think having that, you know, 24/7, 365 days a year, regardless of, you know, the market conditions, I think can only be a positive. And what your thoughts are, Nick?
Yeah, I think I mean, the UFC event itself was an interesting experience, I'm not gonna lie. But you know, essentially, yeah, I think it's really good news to kind of get the name out there a little bit. Obviously, they've had a lot of issues with FUD and just unnecessary speculation negatively across the space for years, right? So I think they're making some strides to make changes there to kind of get away from that kind of I don't know, I want to call it a reputation. What would you call it? Misconception? That's probably the better word.
It's a myth, isn't it? You see it with many different projects, you know, Cardano being called a ghost chain and all sorts of different things. And I think VeChain's kind of suffered, you know, it's been the China coin, hasn't it? And that is nothing more than a myth, in the respect that, you know, most of their business is actually in Europe. They've actually gone to the extreme of moving their head office to Europe now, which, you know, from a business sense, makes an awful lot of sense, in regards that most of your business is there anyway. But then it crushes that myth, doesn't it? And the other thing that really excites me about VeChain is they're starting to break into the US market, aren't they, Nick?
Yeah, I mean, that's going to obviously be massive for VeChain, but then they're doing a lot more than just that, right? Obviously, we know that traceability and supply chain is their bread and butter, right? But they are starting to move into other areas, right? And we're starting to see a lot more with the recent VUSD, for example, in terms of the stable coin, and potentially, hopefully, bringing us closer and closer towards DeFi on VeChain, and let alone going to talk about metaverses on VeChain and NFTs and physical NFTs and all this other kind of wonderful stuff that happens in the background that a lot of people just kind of overlook or are unaware of, right? Because it's just supply chain or it's just carbon credit. So it's just this and it's just that. Everything from my baby app through to my car apps and all those kind of wonderful traceability things, but they're kind of bridging themselves out into other areas now, which I think is going to be massive. And the closer they get to the US, I think the easier and easier that transition is going to be as well.
So I have a quick question for you guys, because you guys are close to them, or, closer than most, closer than us. You're talking about DeFi. How far out do you think is there DeFi? Because I know Joey is just itching and clawing to get that leverage, that short leverage and stuff like that on their DeFi platform if possible. So you think it's, when the bull run starts over the next 2 to 5 years, do you have a time frame or just kind of ideology with that?
No, I don't think there's a time frame, Chris, but you can correct me if I'm wrong. But I would imagine that it's going to be a bit of a slow burn to kind of build up and get some projects and funding to kind of build on the VeChain ecosystem. But probably next 2 to 5 years, I would have thought there would be a start to or a thriving DeFi ecosystem on VeChain, and I do think that it's going to change the dynamic of how people perceive the chain to be. And the other thing to bear in mind when it comes to VeChain is the tools that they have available, right? So for those who are unfamiliar, VeChain started out on Ethereum, and then they kind of created their own chain, VeChain, the VeChain 4 blockchain. There's a dual token system, V4, as the gas fee, rather than just Ethereum, which pay ETH fees for, right? So there's a gas fee and then there's the actual currency. Now, when we start talking about DeFi and things like that, obviously the application's being built. It's going to be built on Solidity still. It's the same kind of coding. So that makes it easier. The tool chain makes it easier. So I think the onboarding process is going to be quite easy in comparison to other chains where there's a bigger, steeper learning curve. Like take Cardano, for example. There's a steeper learning curve there for DeFi than there would be for, let's say, VeChain. So I think the foundations are laid. I think it's then just a matter of advertising and trying to get projects to build there and building those out. But I think you're probably a few years out for sure. But what do you think, Chris?
I think that it isn't a few years out to start seeing that progression. I think that there's a few moving parts that, in my opinion, and this is not based on anything that I know that isn't public, there needs to be some things that are simplified for the front end user. I think this is the same for many projects, not just VeChain. And I think they're going to work through some of those things. I think, by maybe October, November, we should start to see some stuff that, I guess makes it a little bit more user friendly front end. And I think off the back of that, you're going to start to see the DeFi stuff start to be heavily implemented. But with all of that sort of happening, I really do think that they're positioned really, really well and uniquely, because you've already got the NFT side of things in place. You've already got metaverse and gaming projects starting to build on there, and they've already got grants available to encourage people to build there. So I think there's still a lot of work to do for VeChain. But I think they're making great strides to achieve everything that they're setting out to achieve. Again, great technology, well-funded, solid team. It's got everything that we look for in a project.
And we also probably have to bear in mind that it started out as an enterprise blockchain, right? It was never designed for retail consumers, right? So the front end stuff does obviously need to be adjusted, which, it's fine. But, essentially they are the #1 enterprise blockchain in the world as far as kind of we see it. And I think many others see it as well, with partnerships which are just absolute behemoths. So the transition going over, over to the kind of the more DeFi retail aspect, I think is a needed one, but I don't think it's a huge step either.
Nick,
Okay, you look like you got something to add, or Joey.
Yeah, I was just going to say, just following on from what Nick said about them being the #1 enterprise blockchain. You only have to look when we say Crypto Boys viewers and cheeky crypto viewers, go and do your own research. Well, this partnership with Orion One, just look into Orion One, and specifically CEO Tommy Stevenson. He's got an amazing business track record, so definitely go and check him out, do your homework on that. And he said, when it comes to blockchain and supply chain, there's only one game in town, and that's VeChain. No other entity can compete with their low cost, rapid deployment, and ease of use. We're excited to integrate their blockchain into our products to bring VeChain to a wider network of clients. That's his words. When I've done my homework on Orion One, looked into Tommy, I've just got to be bullish. Anyone out there who's a VeChain holder, definitely go check this out. And this is one of the reasons why VeChain is still actually currently my biggest bag.
IK, what do you got, brother? You got something to add?
I mean, I find VeChain interesting because of the model they use to achieve consensus. Apart from all the things that, Chris and Nick and Joe have mentioned, gaming, metaverse, DeFi, the stablecoin, the whole lot. They're different from Ethereum and Bitcoin, because blockchain is, decentralized. You have a lot of different nodes, okay, or different people, organizations that try to achieve consensus, making sure that nobody cheats, right, or tries to, double spend their money. Now, in Bitcoin, they use proof of mechanism, and many altcoins, okay, they use a proof of stake mechanism. Now, in a proof of stake mechanism, you can protect the value of a coin by making sure that people making decisions about the coin are the ones who actually hold it. Okay, in short, they have a stake. In VeChain, though, they use a variation of proof of stake called proof of authority. Instead of staking or proving who has the most of the coin in order to make decisions, the VeChain Foundation chooses which nodes are certified authorities, hence the name of proof of authority. Now, this means that the coin is actually quite centralized. Now, however, due to the nature of business-to-business operations, like Nick was mentioning, it started as an enterprise for business-to-business operations mainly, right? Many companies are okay with this. They're concerned more about the speed and less about security, believe it or not. These huge companies that they're partnered with, they're fully relying on VeChain, VeChain's blockchain to be accurate. They want to make sure that it's in good hands. So, the VeChain Foundation chooses, the nodes that end up actually producing blocks which are added to the blockchain. Although nodes, are obligated to stake at least 25 million, VET. So it's a fair bit, a fair bit of money. Now, this actually makes sense, right? They want the nodes they give authority to have a real interest in the actual defense of the blockchain, and that's really important. That's why VeChain, for me, I like the way that their consensus model is. I think they're going to do really well long term. I think it's great.
Beautiful. So I got to ask the question because we don't really do it on our channel. I know you guys don't really do it kind of in a little sense, however, but what is your guys' price prediction of VeChain? What is it going to hit in this next bull run? In any take you want to play on that.
Okay, so
do you want me to go? I'll go first.
Let's go.
I'll say, okay, 50 cents. I think it's 100% possible. We'd like to see it get to $1, of course. I think 50 cents, though, for sure. I think that one of the true questions would be for me to ask to Nick is, how low can VeChain go?
Okay, so as low as VeChain can go, at the moment, the technicals are indicating as low as 0.007. So lower than 1 cent, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's the kind of feeling you want right there. That's the spot. But essentially, to the upside, we still technically have technicals that can indicate 101, so $1.01. But let's face it, the selling pressure, the higher it goes, is going to be, very, very extreme. Now, the other thing we have to understand is that things change, right? Projects change, directions can change. What would DeFi have, or bring to the party that could change those things? So right now, the short-term move to the downside, that's kind of, valid for a while. Changes, I don't think, are overly going to make too much change to that. But longer term, if DeFi kind of rolls out and they progress forward with, relocations and deploying further into the US, that could have a much bigger, profound effect. So 101 right now seems crazy, but it might not be later down the line. We just don't know how it gets there.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't really focus on where it's going on the lower scales, just purely on the basis that I already hold as much VeChain as I plan to hold. I've got a very sizable position in VeChain. I got in super early, and yeah, it's it's not ever going down to the price where I purchased it. So look, for me, I am really bullish on VeChain. I think there's an awful lot going on. I think it's going to do really well. You're looking a bit lost.
What? Where did you buy VeChain at?
Like
Behind that back dumpster over there. Didn't you see that?
Half a cent?
Yeah.
Oh my Lord.
I was just listening in and thinking, well, that's really brave. But fair play, Chris, for making that call, that's saying it won't ever go back down to where you bought it.
It won't ever go down to where I bought it.
Because if I know for a fact, if I ever said things like that, I'd jinx myself.
It won't ever go. Joey, I think it's more of a case of Chris believes in the project, the fundamentals, B2B, they're growing so rapidly, all the sponsorships. I think it's more of a case that you can see the vision long term.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I think from what I've seen of Chris, I don't think he's ever going to sell. I think
Gentlemen,
he's riding it.
Gentlemen, if VeChain goes to what Nick just said, between our two communities, there won't be any VeChain left.
There's no more VeChain.
There's no more VeChain. I buy as much as my bank account will allow me if it gets down to like less than a cent.
Yeah, to be honest with you, right, that's a long shot, right? I say 0.007. It's a long shot. It could just stop at 1.3, right? But we've still got.
Don't hurt my feelings, Nick. Come on,
just got to put some reality in you. You see, how low can it go? But that's the lowest I could possibly see it going. But there's a lot of places it could stop on that route.
Question for Joe: how much is the Crypto Boys community? How much do your fans love a bit of VeChain?
Oh, they love VeChain. VeChain. I mean, it's one of. Every time we talk about it, it tends to be an extremely successful video. And that's really the only thing that we have to gauge on our community wanting more and more. We don't have like a deep Discord like you guys do, which we probably should get at some point, or some other type of trading platform. It's really just the views and the clicks on our channel and the community with like the posts and comments that happen on our VeChain videos. And they are always extremely successful. So we're about as bullish as you can be. I know you guys are. You guys have a massive following as well. So we're definitely in it to win it, brother.
Yeah, I think VeChain isn't. I've always said that VeChain is not a sexy project, right? Like it's in logistics essentially. And I feel like the more and more it comes to the B2C side of things, like for instance, the partnership with UFC is going to continue to bring in just kind of your everyday person to understanding what VeChain is, not your big businesses like your Amazons, your UFCs, and the Orion partnerships. I think that, I mean, I don't personally, on the people that I follow on Twitter, see anybody ever talk about VeChain except for Crypto Boys and Cheeky Crypto. I really don't see a lot of people. Now, I also don't follow a trillion people on there, but I really don't see anybody talk about VeChain. However, when we do, say, our podcast as a VeChain podcast, we get a lot of views. When Nick and Chris do a video, it gets a lot of views. When you guys do a video, it gets it's like underground views, right? It's like people are watching, but they don't want to talk about it.
We're educating them, Mikey. We're actually educating them as
well. I just feel like a lot of people are watching VeChain, but they don't want to talk about it because it's not sexy. They don't think it's going to bring them views or whatever. The project is, I mean, like you guys said, it's the behemoth of all logistics. Like it is the top dog. And that for me is why I want to be involved in. I would want to be, if that's the sector, right? Chris has always talked about getting into sectors. I feel like that's a big play for logistics. The world needs logistics, right? And why not use VeChain on the blockchain to do that? So
I think it will become that sexy project. Yeah, people can clip this, by the way. Yeah, feel free. It will become that sexy project, like some of the others. And yeah, I think people will talk about it more once it's got that, I don't know, that FOMO around it again.
Well, it has all the potential. I mean, being in the UFC octagon, being like having it just pop up more and more times, it has that potential to be that sexy project, which again is why we like it. So
I'll tell you what VeChain needs. It's called a Coinbase listing.
Yeah, it would need to be more decentralized, I believe.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but never say never.
Yeah, you can't say never. Obviously, anything's possible, but I think one of the requirements from Coinbase is to be vastly decentralized, which I think is where
isn't it on the list that they're looking at?
It was always on the list like for years. It's been on the list.
I think it's on there. But it says not tradable is basically what it is. Let's give Joe P what he wants, though. Let's all go through our price predictions, where we think it's going to go. Joey, where is VeChain going to go? Short? I mean, no, long term. Where's it going to go? Price prediction, bull market, go.
I don't think it's going to make $1, but I think it's going to be north of 50. So somewhere in between. 80 cents. There you go.
Chris, price prediction.
Top price.
Yeah.
I'm still going to go with $1, but I think it could be higher.
IK.
I'll be laddering out from 50 cent upwards, in probably every 10 cent increments, probably. If it gets to $1, fantastic. I'll be happy at 50 cent.
Nick.
Yeah, like I say, same as Chris, $1, potentially higher depending on developments.
Joe P, where do you see it?
$1.50 in the future, baby. $1.50.
Hey, I'll take $1.50 any day of the week, especially if it gets even close to Nick's number that he just gave us.
That's
right. I just need a little pinch below a cent, and then I'm extremely happy about that. Just a pinch.
All right. Well, if you guys have the same prediction that we do, or even close, if you're into VeChain, you know what to do. Make sure that you like the video, subscribe to the channel. And while you're doing that, go over to Cheeky Crypto, subscribe to their channel. Go over to Cheeky Podcast, subscribe to their channel. And as always, thanks for rocking with the fittest crypto channel on YouTube. We're out.